A very good evening and welcome to the news at 6, where we get to the day's top developing stories. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines. Operation to flush out militants from the Air Force base in Pathankot continues. 5 militants are killed so far. Martyrs of the Pathankot attack laid to rest with full military honours. The nation mourns its dead. The Indian Consulate in Afghanistan's Mazar-e-Sharif is under attack. All staff confirmed to be safe. A 6.7 magnitude earthquake jolts the northeast. Epicenter reportedly in Manipur. 7 people are killed and over 90 injured so far. And tensions surge in the Middle East over the execution of a Shiite cleric. Saudi Arabia snaps diplomatic ties with Iran. Bahrain follows suit. Our top story now, even as the Pathankot encounter is underway, the Indian Consulate in Afghanistan came under attack on Sunday. Gun battle between the Afghan security forces and insurgents continues in the northern city of Mazar-e-Sharif. India has confirmed that all its consulate staff is safe and no group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far.
Explosions and gunshots heard at the Indian consulate in the Afghan city of Mazar-e-Sharif. Afghan special security forces are battling insurgents barricaded in a house near the Indian consulate. Early on Sunday evening, gunmen unsuccessfully tried to break into the consulate. Later, they shut themselves in a house nearby.
The final assault has been launched by these Afghan special forces and the operation is underway right now. As far as the incident is concerned, at 21:15 last night, 3 blasts occurred in front of Indian consulate, Mazar-e-Sharif, and militants started firing. Now ITP troops returned heavy fire to prevent militants entering into the area.
At least 1 civilian was wounded and 5 security personnel injured. Indian ambassador to Afghanistan Amar Sinha tweeted that all consulate staff were safe. Security forces have cordoned off the area.
2 militants suspected holed up in a nearby building and cordoned by Afghan forces. Council staff and ITBP troops are safe.
یک ضربه آنی وارد بکنن بعد از ضربه یک دخول اجرا بکنن ان شاء الله اگر هر انکشافاتی که آمد شما رو ما مچی که وظیفه کماندان صاحب است و مسئول امنیت و مسئولین امنیتی.
No group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far. This is not the first time that the Indian missions have come under attack in Afghanistan. In May 2014, heavily armed gunmen attacked the Indian consulate in Herat. In August 2013, 9 civilians were killed when the consulate in Jalalabad was targeted. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
For the latest on the situation developing there, we're joined by the correspondent with the BBC, Saeed Anwar, who's in fact there in Kabul, joining us on the phone line from there. Saeed, thanks so much for being here with us. If you could give us an update on how things stand.
A few minutes ago, I spoke with our colleagues in Mazar. Still, when I was talking on the phone, the gunfire was hearing on the phone even. Still, the fighting is going on. About an hour ago, special forces deployed to the area. Governor of Balkh, Muhammad Noor, earlier said that last night they didn't call special forces because the area is a civilian populated area. So for the reason of protecting civilians, last night they didn't call special forces. This afternoon, special forces came to the area, and though fighting is continue right now, but officials in Mazar are optimistic that in coming hours it will end it.
All right. We understand the Afghanistan president has spoken to our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. If you could also shed some light on whether any group's responsibility has been come off light so far.
So far in Afghanistan, no group has claimed responsibility of this attack. Whenever such attacks happen in Afghanistan, Taliban quickly claim the responsibility through social media, or they directly send press release to the media. But so far, till now I'm talking with you, there is no any comment from Taliban about attack on Indian consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif. still there is no any comment from other Afghan government or opponent groups, which are Hizb Islami led by Hikmatyar and also the IS militants. Still, there is no comment from any group.
All right. And can you confirm for us, Saeed, if all the staff members are safe there? Can you give us confirmation as well?
The Indian ambassador in Kabul says that all the consulate staff are safe. Also, local officials in Mazar told the reporters that what they know, the Indian consulate officials are safe and in safe area in the consulate. But still, there is no information or reliable news from the consulate officials, but Afghan officials and Indian embassy in Kabul says the staff are safe.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us with those details there. Meanwhile, back home, the operation against militants holed up inside the Pathankot air base entered the third day today. Explosions and firing continued intermittently overnight, but officers of the NSG, the Indian Air Force and the Army say that there's been no collateral damage to the strategic assets at the air base. In fact, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has put off his China visit starting tomorrow in the wake of this siege. Meanwhile, Pakistan-based United Jihad Council, or the UJC, an umbrella organization of about a dozen militant outfits, has claimed responsibility for this deadly attack.
Another militant gunned down in Pathankot on the third day of the combing operation inside the Air Force base. Efforts to eliminate the last terrorist, still believed to be holed up inside, are now in the final stages. Teams of the NSG, Air Force and Army who are jointly conducting the operation have said all families and personnel inside the air base as well as the strategic assets have been secured. The operation, however, will continue till all the personnel, assets and structure are physically combed.
The entire operations will continue till all the personal assets, structures are physically combed. So it is likely to take a long time, but we would like to assure everyone that at this stage, all the personnel, strategic assets and the structures, families of the airbase are secure and their safety has been ensured.
स्ट्रैटेजिक एसेट्स के अलावा यहाँ पे काफ़ी फैमिलीज रहती हैं, स्कूल्स हैं, ये एक मिनी सिटी की तरह है और ये जो ऑपरेशन चल रहा है इस काफ़ी अच्छी सिनर्जी के साथ एनएसजी, इंडियन आर्मी, इंडियन एयरफोर्स के एसेट्स के साथ बहुत इफेक्टिव सिनर्जी के साथ चल रहा है। यहाँ पर ऐसी कोई भी चीज़ नहीं है जिसकी सिक्योरिटी अभी तक नहीं की जा सकी है।
Meanwhile, in Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi convened a high-level meeting with top security officials, including National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Union Ministers Arun Jaitley and Manohar Parrikar, both of whom are part of the Cabinet Committee on Security. Ajit Doval's high-profile visit to China was also cancelled due to the security situation in Pathankot. India is now mulling options with regard to the Foreign Secretary-level talks with Pakistan that are scheduled to be held in Islamabad on the 15th of this month. There's also speculation that the talks may be deferred and instead the National Security Advisors of both India and Pakistan may meet to discuss the situation arising out of the terror strike in Pathankot, suspected to have been carried out by Pakistani terrorists. Meanwhile, the opposition attack on the government continued over the inefficient handling of the Pathankot incident.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi should immediately call off the Foreign Secretary level talks. Mr. Prime Minister, are we waiting for another terror attack to take the obvious step? There is nothing which is going to be gained by engaging with Pakistan.
A total of 6 terrorists have been killed in the 3-day operation in Pathankot. Military casualty in the incident stands at 7. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And as you saw, the heartrending scenes were witnessed as martyrs of the Pathankot terror attack were given the final farewell with full military honours today. Hundreds of people gathered to pay their tributes to the brave hearts at their native places. 7 security personnel were martyred in the attack.
The nation paid its tributes to the martyrs of the Pathankot Air Force Base attack on Monday. The martyrs were given a final farewell with full military honours as hundreds of people bid goodbye to the brave hearts. 7 security personnel, including 1 Garud commando, 1 NSG officer and 5 personnel of the Defence Security Corps were killed in the attack. The last rites of Garud commando Guru Sevak Singh were performed in his native village of Garnala in Haryana. The 25-year-old who had joined the Indian Air Force about 6 years ago is survived by wife of 2 months.
बस जी उनका तो नेचर जो स्वभाव था वही याद रहेगा जी, और उनकी दिलेरी जो वही याद रहेगी जी। उन्होंने देश के लिए जान अपनी न्यौछावर कर दी है, सबसे बड़ी बात तो यही है, लेकिन गम यह है कि वो हमसे दूर हो गए हैं।
In Bengaluru, the body of Lieutenant Colonel E.K. Niranjan, a bomb expert with the National Security Guard, was brought for the wreath-laying ceremony. Lieutenant Colonel Kumar was killed while defusing a grenade at the scene of the terror attack. The 32-year-old is survived by his wife and an 18-month-old daughter. His last rites were performed in Palakkad in Kerala.
हमारे लिए तो बहुत बड़ा लॉस है, लेकिन खुशी की बात यह है देश के लिए उन्होंने अपनी जान दी है। हमारे से बड़ा लॉस फैमिली के लिए है, इसमें हमारा फर्ज है फैमिली को सपोर्ट करना।
In Gurdaspur, scores of mourners gathered at the house of Subedar Fateh Singh of the Defence Security Corps. Fateh Singh had won a gold and a silver medal during the first Commonwealth Shooting Championship in 1995. 5 of the 7 security personnel killed served in the Defence Security Corps, a unit staffed by veterans. Havaldar Jagdish Chand was killed during the attack, while the 3 DSC personnel, Lance Naik Fulwant Singh from Gurdaspur, Sepoy Sanjeev Kumar and Sepoy Mohit Chand passed away in the hospital during the night. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in more grim news, at least 6 people were killed and over 50 injured as a strong 6.7 magnitude earthquake hit the country's northeast early this morning. The quake, epicentered in Manipur, damaged buildings and triggered panic. Here's a report.
The northeast part of the country woke up earlier than usual. That too with a jolt measuring 6.7 on the Richter scale. The epicenter of the quake was in Tamenglong district of North Manipur.
ये एक अर्थक्वेक जो है मणिपुर में आज सुबह 4:35 पर आया था। इसके जो मैग्नीट्यूड जो है वो जो है हमारे नेशनल नेटवर्क में 6.7 मैग्नीट्यूड का मापा गया है। इसका केंद्र जो है वो मणिपुर और आसाम बॉर्डर में, यानी इम्फाल से करीब 30-35 किलोमीटर नॉर्थ वेस्ट की तरफ जो है इसका केंद्र बिंदु था।
सभी लोग रास्ते पर आ गए, सब लोग तो यहाँ पर तो सब 2-3 मंजिलें सबका ही है, सब लोग रास्ते पर ही है। सबका में एकदम डर तो सभी को लगा हुआ है।
According to reports, a few buildings, including residential units and government offices, were damaged. The National Crisis Management Committee reviewed the situation and has agreed to provide central assistance for relief and rescue operations in affected areas.
पूरी स्थिति का मैं जायजा ले रहा हूं और वैसे कोई चिंता की बात नहीं है जो अभी तक जानकारी प्राप्त हुई है।
Meanwhile, 2 National Disaster Response Force teams have arrived in Imphal to speed up rescue work. Manipur Chief Minister Okram Mebobi Singh visited the affected areas as well as those admitted to hospitals.
As we got the report in the morning, we alerted our teams, and 2 teams right now they are boarding the plane of Air Force. One is AN-32 and one is Avro from Guwahati, and there are 90 personnel under command of 2 officers.
Tremors were also felt in neighbouring Bangladesh and Nepal, and even at places as far as the Myanmar capital of Yangon. However, there are no reports of damage or casualties on the Myanmar side. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With a quick break here, but still ahead, the Indian stock markets plunge over worries about China's economic slowdown. Details of that in a bit.
Terrorist strike at Pathankot Air Base. Cold water on India-Pakistan peace hopes. After this attack, can the peace process get on its feet again? Watch the big picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Now, in its biggest fall in over 3 months, the Sensex fell below the 26,000 mark as worries over China's economic slowdown and geopolitical tensions in the Middle East spooked investors. The benchmark BSE Sensex crashed below the crucial 26,000 level by falling 537 points to 25,623, while Nifty tanked about 172 points to settle at 7,791. In addition, domestic manufacturing sector output shrinking to a 28-month low in December and fresh weakness in the rupee further accelerated selling activity at the stock exchange. Other Asian stocks were on the receiving end too after a private survey showed Chinese factory data contracted for a 5th straight month. Consequently, Shanghai index plunged by more than 7% and trading was halted for the rest of the day. Now, today is day 3 of the odd-even formula in the national capital. The measure was brought in to control pollution levels, even though results of that will be visible only after a few more days. But Delhiites have stood up to the challenge and are complying with the regulation. The Delhi government, however, calls the measure a success.
Delhiites stood up to the challenge against rising air pollution by adhering to the odd-even rule on Monday. January 4th was to be the real test of the rule, as people join back work after an extended break. However, despite their best efforts, the level of pollution is still hovering in the dangerous range.
लेवल इतना ज़्यादा है कि 2 दिन में कोई एक्सपेक्टेड भी नहीं है और 10-15% गाड़ियाँ कम करने से फ़र्क भी नहीं पड़ने वाला। सुबेरे हम लोग नेहरू प्लेस के अंदर में थे, वहाँ पर भी 600 क्रॉस कर रहा था। 300 से ऊपर रेड अलर्ट है।
Experts say that enforcing the odd-even formula has reduced congestion levels on Delhi roads, even as the pollution level stays dangerously high.
आप साथ में ऑटो रिक्शास को भी बंद कर दो एक दिन के लिए, करके देख लो फर्क पड़ रहा है कि नहीं पड़ रहा, आपको पता लग जाएगा कि किसका पोल्यूशन ज़्यादा है। प्लस लोगों को भी पार्टिसिपेट करना चाहिए, सड़क के ऊपर में सिगरेट ना पिएं, आसपास की जो इंडस्ट्री है उसको भी चेक करें।
But the Delhi government labelled the scheme a success on Monday too. However, the government is not yet looking at other measures to control pollution levels.
जो 3 दिन का जो मैंने अध्ययन किया है उसके हिसाब से दिल्ली के बॉर्डर के जो एरियाज़ हैं जहां रात में ट्रक्स बड़ी मात्रा में चलते हैं या एनसीआर में जो पोल्यूशन है वहां पोल्यूशन लेवल थोड़ा कम डाउन हो रहा है, लेकिन इनर सर्किल में दिल्ली के अंदर में जहां लोगों ने इस नियम को फॉलो किया है वहां पर पोल्यूशन लेवल 20 जगह का सैंपल हम इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं और वहां पोल्यूशन लेवल काफ़ी कम हो रहा है।
The government had claimed on Saturday that pollution levels had come down in several areas of Delhi. In fact, at least 24 points reported a PM 2.5 level less than 150. Anu Devan's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
CPI veteran A.B. Bardhan, who passed away on Saturday, was cremated in Delhi today. The last rites were performed this afternoon. Earlier in the day, his body was kept at the CPI headquarters at Ajay Bhavan, where his admirers and leaders cutting across political lines paid tributes to him. Prominent among them were Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, Telecom Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, Delhi's Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung and CPIM General Secretary Sitaram Yechuri. Leaders paid rich tributes to the departed comrade.
कॉमरेड बर्धन के बारे में मैं एक बात कहूंगा, हिंदुस्तान की राजनीति में एक विचारधारा पर अपने जीवन की यात्रा शुरू करना और उसी विचारधारा में अपने जीवन को समाप्त करना ये बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है। लेकिन उनके निधन से भारत की लोकतांत्रिक परंपरा और विचारधारा की राजनीति को एक बहुत बड़ी क्षति पहुंची है। मैं अपनी बहुत ही विनम्र सांत्वना उनको और पूरे सीपीआई परिवार को देता हूं।
And now let's take you through some updates from across the country in Nationwide. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley held a pre-budget consultations with agriculture groups and trade unions. Jaitley will hold discussions with different stakeholders, including those from the industry and economists, over the next few days. The Finance Minister's discussions with economists and the industry is slated on the 6th of January and with the IT sector on Thursday. A Turkish Airlines flight scheduled to fly to Istanbul was called back from a runway at the Mumbai airport after an unclaimed mobile phone was spotted in the aircraft before takeoff. Around 250 passengers on board the aircraft were evacuated and frisked again before being allowed back into the jet. The takeoff of the flight was rescheduled after a security clearance. Kashmir Valley today received the season's first snowfall, bringing down temperatures across the state. Snowfall was reported from Jawahar Tunnel in South Kashmir and Kupwara district in North Kashmir. The Met Department has predicted moderate rain and snow in Kashmir for today and tomorrow. Now, after announcing severing of diplomatic ties with Iran, Saudi Arabia has given Iranian diplomats 2 days to leave the country. Both countries have been at loggerheads, but Saudi Arabia's execution of a Shiite cleric, Nimr al-Nimr, on Saturday kicked off a new round of hostilities between them. Analysts say that it could mark a dangerous shift in an already volatile region.
An execution that first fueled sectarian protest and violence in the Middle East has now sparked a serious diplomatic rift. Saudi Arabia has broken off diplomatic ties with Iran after protesters stormed its embassy in Tehran, setting the building on fire. The demonstrations were a protest against the mass execution of 47 people, including prominent Shia Muslim cleric Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr, all on terror-related offences. Saudi Arabia has given a 48-hour warning to all Iranian diplomats to leave the country. It has also recalled its diplomats from Tehran. Following in Riyadh's footsteps, Bahrain too announced severing ties with Iran.
We are determined not to allow Iran to undermine our security. We are determined not to let Iran mobilize or create or establish terrorist cells in our country or in the countries of our allies.
Earlier, Iran had summoned Saudi ambassador to condemn al-Nimr's execution, with Saudi Arabia objecting to Iran's actions, accusing Tehran of supporting terrorism and destabilizing regional security. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, compared Saudi Arabia to the Islamic State and warned that the Sunni Muslim kingdom will face divine revenge for the execution.
آمر به معروف ناهی از منکر دارای تعصب دینی غیرت دینی این رو انسان به قتل برسانه شهید کنه این رو این واقعا جنایت بزرگی است.
The diplomatic rupture threatens to resonate across the Middle East. The United States, European Union and even China have sought to calm the turmoil and urged continuation of diplomatic engagement.
担忧，我们希望有关各方在反恐问题上加强沟通，形成合力。我们也主张外交人员和机构的安全和尊严呢应该得到保障。我们希望有关方面保持冷静和克制。
Iran and Saudi Arabia back opposing sides in the conflict in Syria and Yemen. In recent decades, ties between the countries have been strained over various issues, including Iran's nuclear program and deaths of Iranians at the Hajj pilgrim in 1987 and again in 2015. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now for more international news, let's get you Global Buzz. The Islamic State group has threatened Britain in an internet video released on Sunday. The video shows the killing of 5 spies who allegedly worked for the international coalition fighting the group. An English-speaking fighter also mocks British Prime Minister Cameron for challenging the IS. Experts say the group often releases propaganda videos when it suffers setbacks on the battlefield. In Iraq last Sunday, federal forces declared victory in the battle for Ramadi, the city that IS seized in May 2015. Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena has pledged land for up to 1 lakh people who have been living in camps 6 years after the end of the country's brutal civil war. The land will be given within 6 months to build homes. All train, bus and ferry passengers travelling from Denmark to Sweden will now be required to show photo identification before being allowed across the border. This move by the Swedish government is in order to stem an unprecedented migrant influx. The measures are aimed at keeping out undocumented migrants. Sweden has taken in more asylum seekers per capita than any other European nation. However, the government said that it could no longer cope with the unregulated flow of new arrivals. All right, now let's change tracks, get you all the latest from the world of sports in Sports Beat. India took revenge of their last edition defeat as they beat defending champions Afghanistan 2-1 in the summit clash to lift the South Asian Football Federation Cup. JJ Lalpeklua and Sunil Chhetri scored for the hosts as they overcame their opponent 2-1 in a dominating display. The SAF Cup title triumph would be a consolation for the Blue Tigers after woeful 2018 World Cup qualifiers. Real Madrid squandered a chance to catch Barcelona in the Spanish league standings after they slipped to a 2-2 draw against Valencia. Karim Benzema's opener was equalized by Dani Parejo. Valencia's Mateo Kovacic was then sent off for a tackle and Real looked set for a win when Bale headed home. However, a minute later their hopes were dashed as 10-man Valencia equalized once again. Ukraine has beaten USA in the Hopman Cup as Serena Williams pulled out due to injury. 20-year-old Vicky Duval, who was replacing Serena, was beaten 6-4, 6-1 by world number 19 Elina Svitolina, with Ukraine now taking an unassailable 2-0 lead. The 2-1 tie defeat leaves the US facing an uphill battle to reach the final. And that's what we have for you on the News at 6. Thanks so much for joining us.